Ooh, the weekend watch list here on Intercut, the weekly show going through the movies, entertainment, and TV that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co-host Arturo Zurita, and joining me, if he chooses to accept this mission of like a dozen movies a week, it's Zachary Shevich.
This
Hey, bro.
podcast will self-destruct in
In
5
10.
seconds. How's it going,
uh,
man? It's been a
I mean, I
couple
was gonna,
weeks.
I was gonna say that we were now in 70 millimeter. If you just scroll
Ooh.
down to your settings, it's the feature only in some locations. You might need a
Mhm.
VPN for it, but you'll see a little grain come up on some of the stuff there.
Just
It
check
might
your
be that
local
or the explosion.
listings. Make sure
Yeah,
you're getting the right screening. You don't accidentally end up in a regular digital
you do
projection,
not want that. You
Yeah.
also don't want the Oppenheimer thing effect happening
Mm,
over here. So make sure you get the
mm.
full screen. But speaking of, there is so many movies that have been coming out now that we're in the midst of July, and we've been out for a couple of weeks. We haven't
Hmm.
been without content. We've had massive just breaking down everything that's been out for the last 6 7 months in terms of the best movies, the best TV with Amanda the Jedi. We had movie files on, and we talked with Elliot
Yeah.
about the best movie stars over 40. I don't want to spoil who it was, but it was someone who's still running the box office.
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just like, who did we give it to again? Because it was such a close match towards the end. But I think we gave it to the right person.
Yeah. Any regrets from our best movie stars 50 and over bracket? I think my one regret is that we didn't put Mads Mikkelsen on it. That's a good call. We totally should have. He could have been in there instead of Ben Mendelsohn.
What was that movie that he led?
One of our favorite movies, the best foreign language
Oh well,
contender. I'm
yeah, true,
forgetting the
true,
name of
true.
it right now.
The only thing that
Yeah.
I would have said is I think the approach that we really honed in with halfway through, and it's one
Mhm.
thing that you and I have had in the back of our minds when we do those brackets, is the idea that we're coming at it as producers. A lot of
Right.
people are like, "Oh, but I'm a fan of this person." Well, yeah, I mean that's going to vary in a bunch of different ways,
Mhm.
right? But it's like we specifically approach it from the producer's mindset, and I wish that I would have said more arguments for who we were going with just based off that, because
Yeah.
then I would have given to Tony Collette. But other than that, we have a bunch of videos that we've been posting up, a bunch of shorts as well. But of course, we got to recap a lot of the movies that have come out this week, because then there's going to be like a dozen more coming out right afterwards. But Zach, other than the movies and the TV and the streaming and the VODs and the theaters, anything new with you for the summer now that we're midway through 2023?
Not much, man. Just getting outside. It's hot. I don't know if the heat has really made its way to Chicago, but it's like that oppressive hot that I can't stay outside for too long in anymore.
That dust y'all sent our way, it came back.
Oh, yeah,
It's
we got a little
disgusting.
bit of it today too. The air quality not in our favor right now.
Yeah, we've also had tornadoes. I don't know if y'all get a lot of that, but
Not
by
really.
your guys' end.
We got a tornado warning, which is like the closest we get around here. But
Yeah, we had the alarms going off. They said that they were going to change the Chicago Bears to the Chicago Tornadoes because they'd make more touchdowns than the Bears would. So that's been what we've been dealing over here in the Great Plains. But in terms of some of the big movies that are coming on the horizon, I know you're still going to be traveling. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be going like different coasts as well, heading over to Seattle, which I know has a massive,
mm,
massive IMAX theater. You're lucky; you got a close one near you. But
yeah.
are you going to be going to any new theaters anytime soon?
I am going to be away from my home base in New York and traveling to Virginia for Barbenheimer Day. So we're seeking out stuff in the Arlington
Wait,
area. But I found a 70 millimeter. But don't worry, I've got my tickets for next week on the big IMAX 70 millimeter in Lincoln Square. I'm gonna see Oppenheimer in the best way imaginable. It'll just be my second screening of it.
gotcha. I mean, we have our screening tomorrow for the city here, but
I am
then
jealous.
the closest ones that we have are literally going to be like Indianapolis,
Hmm. we
uh,
we we get to,
Michigan.
we get into this situation sometimes just by virtue of the press screenings we get sent, where like they tend to not decide these things until maybe like 2 weeks or so before the movie is released.
Bruh.
And meanwhile, like if you've made your summer plans months in advance,
Oh, that's
you might have something booked on the same night as the Oppenheimer screening.
that. Yeah, that's completely relevant to them. You know what we need? We need a union, Zach. That's what we need
Yeah,
because no one's here to
yeah,
defend that. Even like that was a big thing that a lot of critics were complaining about Oppenheimer and Barbie,
right.
and Barbie's happening right now. I'm sacrificing the Barbie screening, which honestly scared me because I have not seen that many people in pink in one showing. So if that's what I have to look forward to on
Getting dressed
Wednesday when I'm
up.
going to catch it, insane amount of pink. But Yeah, I am looking forward to catching it in that IMAX 70 millimeter. Like Zach said, New York is lucky if you have that there. I will be going to Indianapolis. They have a really big museum that they claim Christopher Nolan himself sat there to test out. And I highly recommend, we'll probably put it down below as we mentioned it for Picks of the Week as well, to go to the IMAX website that showcases the 30 theaters. There are only 30 prints of that IMAX 70 millimeter that are going to be out there. I know some people
11
get
mile
confused
long
by it.
cut,
600 pounds, right?
right?
I've heard people get like dismayed by it. They feel very like against it because
Hmm.
it's like they're being told that it's the wrong format to watch it in. But personally, hey, like sometimes I'll travel somewhere and I don't know why there's a line, but I don't want to go back home not having been in that line and trying whatever it is out. I know it may seem foreign to a lot of people, but if you can, try it, experience it, and then later figure out what's so cool about it. We talk about it here on the show. We'll talk about it later when we see it. But I highly implore catching that because most screenings are sold out for the next 2 weeks. So
Hmm.
at least there's 3 weeks, as Tom Cruise has vented to everybody. But speaking of the one and only Tom Cruise, let's talk about some of the movies that are out this week that have
Let's
been
do it.
coming out in general, beginning with that Mission Impossible movie, the seventh in the franchise that some people are saying is the penultimate. Dead Reckoning Part 2 is supposed to be the end of it all.
Tom Cruise is certainly not saying it. He was saying he wants to keep making these movies until he's what, 80?
That's what he said, but I've heard the man himself, Christopher McQuarrie. They call him McHugh, which I thought was pretty cute. That
Hmm.
Mr. McHugh's been talking about that being the end of that. That they're looking to wrap it up in that way. They've even been talking about some de aging, which is a conversation for a more spoiler talk there. But in order to expand and maybe finish what has been a lot of themes within the Mission Impossible franchise, they have set up what is an AI entity, something that Tom Cruise already vented about in Top Gun. And now he's like, you know what? I'm gonna face it here. And with all the allegories dealing with Tom Cruise saving Hollywood, Tom Cruise fighting religion damn near in this movie, what was the thing that stood out to you the most? Or were you underwhelmed by it? We have not talked about the newest Mission
Yeah,
Impossible.
I think I came out on it a little bit more excited than you because you got to see it ahead of me. So I heard your reaction, and we both enjoyed it for sure because
Yep.
we are fans of this type of filmmaking, this type of uh, big blockbuster action filmmaking where you can actually feel the reality of it. You can see that this isn't all created in post in computers and whatever. Tom Cruise and the many stunt people who are involved in these things, they put their bodies on the line. They figure out how to capture these things in ways that kind of do feel like you're on the edge of danger in a lot of ways. And there's something really exhilarating to see to seeing that kind of stunt work on a big stage like this. It's different than your John Wicks, which are so much about the fight choreography. This is like got that sort of almost like Buster Keaton-esque quality where there's
In this
things
one,
like
yeah,
crashing all around them. I thought this was like what maybe the funniest Mission Impossible film. There's a
easily.
whole moment where a car flips upside down, which is like a laugh out loud thing that I did not expect from this franchise. I had a really good time with them, or with this movie in particular. Uh, you know, even if it's not necessarily like the most comprehensible story or a story where I felt like I completely understood the stakes, just in
Hmm.
terms of like the tension and the pace of it, the way in which it is a globe-trotting adventure that actually feels like a globe-trotting adventure, not something that was completely faked with a second unit team and some clever CGI. I just really enjoyed my time with Mission Impossible 7 Part 1.
I was very skeptical going in or coming out of it the first time. I was like, oh, this is a lot goofier than I expected it to be. I also was coming at it from revisiting Fallout and Fallout. Be for real, Zach. Come on.
That's the best one.
It's the best one. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that so many people have been rewatching it and just seeing like how leagues ahead of it they were with the practical effects and what they were doing there. And here, it took my second viewing to really see that. Oh, he's having a good time. He's goofing around with it. I think a lot of it is also going to rely on how part two comes into play because I have some
Yeah.
theories in terms of where they're going to take characters and really how again they may wrap up the franchise. But I think the cast is fantastic. Haley Atwell, that's a Hollywood crush over here.
Hmm.
She kills it in this movie. There has been kind of a series of parallels. You had mentioned it too, and I agree with you 100% because I thought the same thing when I came out. There are way too many set pieces in all of these blockbuster movies. Another big one besides the stairs, how you said in your tweet, is the female character who kind of gets in the way, but almost kind of helps the main character, who's a
Hmm.
brunette and does all these crazy things. She's one of the best ones that we've got.
Yeah. I
There
mean, it
was this
helps
one,
when you cast Haley Atwell in that role.
and you allow her to do what she should be doing, not
Hmm.
like as she's been venting for some other franchises. I thought the way that they were able to have a lot of set pieces go up. Just picking up the angst and every single one. They talked about this one that happens at the Dubai airport. I didn't realize it wasn't open. They opened it just for them. They were shooting in there for the desert scene. They did it like right in the back of the airport as well. Obviously, the big stunt that everyone's been talking about is the train seat, or the one that is him getting onto the train.
Yeah.
But personally, I think the stunt that follows that does have a little CGI,
Hmm.
that's the standout.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, even though there is some CGI in it, they're able to give it a sense of reality. Like, maybe because it's so like it takes place in a really understandable environment. One thing that I really love about that sequence is the way that it kind of keeps changing what's happening, even as they keep sort of doing the same thing, if that makes any sense. They go through different
Yeah,
sections. um they're just very good in this franchise at figuring out ways to up the ante and to put their people in, to put Tom Cruise into this corner that feels, pun intended, impossible to get out of, and to find a way out of it. Um I just think that they're really enjoyable. I think the filmmaking is really just kinetic and fun. And we were talking slightly about the cast. There's some newish cast members, some brand new cast members. I really love the way that these films utilize Vanessa Kirby, because she's this very
very good.
interesting, interesting person to look at, not just because she's like obviously very beautiful, but she has these kind of like strange facial expressions and is able to sort of like be a bit mysterious, and I like that they lean into that with her. But I mean, I don't know about you. I thought Pom Klementieff was a huge standout in this film.
Bro, she is too good in this movie. They were talking about how I looked at her outfit, this black braid outfit. She said she picked it out herself. And then on top of that, a lot of the sequences where she's like chasing them, she has this big grin on her face. And
Hmm.
what they did was take not necessarily B-roll, but shots where she was just having too much fun driving around, and they kept them. And she's like, "No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna look psychotic." Then she sees the final cut, and they're like, "Whoa, that looks crazy." It makes
yeah.
her character look like she's so into it. Nah, she was definitely a stand-up for that. I heard her talk about how it has been 10 years since she came to Hollywood. She started in Old Boy,
Yeah.
not knowing English.
Spike Lee's old boy.
Yeah, and now Guardians. This, nah, bro, she's a standout. You saw
Hmm.
that thing about her doing a bunch of flips out of the helicopter.
Oh, actually, no. Tell me about it.
I guess she's been doing 60. She's skydived 66 times, and people are like, "Yeah, you're coming back. We're gonna see you do more stunts." So I'm
For
excited to see
sure.
what they're gonna do with her. I'm excited, like you said, with Vanessa Kirby, rewatching the first one. Her mom's in the first one, so they've been taking
Hmm.
their time building out the lore. Her mom, as in the
Yeah, the
character that
character.
she plays, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I had also heard in interviews that another person that they brought back from the first movie had a lot of his lines just done by him, and you can tell there's what I will say about a lot of the performances in this movie is that it's all in the eyes of Winsing. So obviously Tom Cruise likes to do his little stares, but
Hmm.
even with this man, Kirchich has this one scene that you see in the trailer where he's kind of telling Ethan like, things aren't gonna go well for you, and you could just see his eye, like they haven't been taking their vitamins.
Hmm.
Everyone just stood out.
Yeah.
I
Did
also
you
did
like?
like
Uh,
Shea Wingham.
I love Shea Wiggum in this movie.
Shea Wingham did a fantastic job, dude.
Hmm.
And Tarzan, who was in Top Gun, he brought several people from Top Gun.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Shoot, what's his name?
Even the dude who played Warlock, he's in one of the sequences when they're all gathered together. But
Yeah.
no, they all play off well each other, dude. They do a fantastic job.
I particularly like that in this movie, they were able to do so many allusions to the first film.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry, by the way, that actor is Charles Parnell, who was in both Top Gun Maverick and this. Really, really commanding presence. But like I like how in this film they bring back a lot of the Dutch angles that Brian De Palma was using in moments there. They brought back
Hmm.
the close-up sleight of hand magic that Ethan Hunt would do in the first film.
That caught me off guard.
Yeah, like even just like you said, returning to Kirchich, they do a lot of like connecting this back to the roots of the Mission Impossible franchise without making it like some kind of uh what do you call it, retconned sequel thing.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious because without getting into too much spoilers, they really pushed this little flashback sequence that you see with SIE's character, the
Right.
character of Gabriel,
I guess
and I'm
that's a
like,
bit of retconning for sure.
it's not even that it's retconning; it's just adding something where if you rewatch the first one, like his whole team dies in the first one. I think that's all he needs.
Right.
I think a whole group dying is better to connect with his whole group maybe dying
Hmm.
than having to add a love interest. But again, I've been hearing this new tech that they want to push in terms of maybe doing some de-aging, and they said that they had filmed some stuff and then kind of strayed away from it. But you do see it on SIE's character, so they've kind of already worked something out there. But I'm again very curious to see how they're going to take it, how they're going to wrap it, and overall, I highly recommend watching Fallout because they have not been tapped since, in my opinion. But overall, where does it rank for you? And even more than that, I have to ask you. I don't know where this came from.
Hmm.
Mission Impossible 3 or Mission Impossible 2?
Yeah, I feel like every couple years the answer changes to that question. I'm not really sure why that like suddenly everybody hates 3 again, or sorry, hates 2 again.
No, they
But
hate 3 again.
I'm seeing some hate for 2.
I'm seeing the justified hate for 2 that should always be.
I mean, look, I'm going 3 personally. If
Oh,
I'm
okay,
choosing
yeah.
between them,
Same, yeah. No, I've been seeing a lot of hate for 3. The 2 has been justified. I like there was
yeah,
this one quote that someone had said. It's like, It's fun, it's great, but y'all are ignoring the other like hour and 50 minutes of that movie." I don't hate 2. I don't hate any of these movies.
yeah, I think they're all
Um,
fun.
but it's been interesting to see people revisit them.
I
And
think this is my least favorite of like the latter half, right? Like there's that split
yeah,
between 3 and 4 where it feels like the franchise kind of goes in a slightly different direction. And of
yes,
those films, I think this is my least favorite, but I really liked all those movies. So it's not really like a knock against this one.
yeah. I feel weird saying that, but that was exactly my point coming out of it, and you could definitely tell that it's Chris McQuarrie's addition to it and what he's been able to do with it,
Yeah.
and I like it. I'm curious to see where they take it next. Do you miss the fact of the approach that they used to have of having a bunch of different directors, going from JJ, going from Wu, going from De Palma?
I do. I kind of like the sort of ability to give it a fresh set of eyes or kind of refresh it. But
Hmm.
Macquarie has developed this really strong working partnership with Tom Cruise in the past few years, and I don't know, man. They're making good movies, so I don't really want to complain about making good movies. But I also think it'd be
Makes
really
sense.
cool to bring in some interesting new voices. That said, like Mission Impossible was doing that before it became like a really common thing to do, and now that's what Marvel does, is they just try to find the interesting new director to bring in. I don't know.
Yeah. So it helps also have consistency, but it's been a
Yeah,
good run. That's really all that matters.
totally.
So we both recommend it. I would say go out to a theater to watch it. I've heard good things about the Screen X and the 40X. I've said my thoughts on the IMAX over on LME, but the Dolby is probably the best way to catch it. I think they really knock it out of the park with that one right there. So.
Nice.
Next up, really quickly, is a movie that we have a whole review for that came out of South by. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
comedies out there. Joyride by Adele Lim, starring a slew of what I consider some of the funniest people out right now
Hmm.
because they've all been in different things. Sherry Cole is about to be in one of my favorites. I think you also really liked it. Shortcomings, one of
Yeah.
my most quotables out of Sundance. Obviously, you have an Academy Award nominee, should have won, in Stephanie Sue, who I keep forgetting. I'm wrapping up Mrs. Maisel. I keep forgetting
Yeah.
she's in Mrs. Maisel. Like
Hmm.
this cast is in everything. So
And but even more so than like they're in everything, it's one of those movies where it feels like they got all these people before they're not going to be able to afford to get all these people in a movie like this.
exactly. And hey, I think they play off each other extremely well. I think we're in that era of raunchy comedies where it's kind of difficult to review comedies because when things get so raunchy, like I made a No Hard Feelings video, I
Hmm.
liked it, but people either thought that I hated it or liked it, depending on what side they felt they were on for the movie. And it's like, you're
Right.
getting to this point where it's like, I don't know, policing jokes, ironically, by the people who want jokes to be as free as they can be, makes no sense to me.
Hmm.
Don't be you got me here. Don't be the critic. Don't be Lights Camera Jackson when you're coming into these R-rated comedies. Okay, they don't have to be for everybody, but when
Yeah.
they hit, they hit. Let loose. That's the point of these comedies here.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to have like a lot of fun at this movie. There are a lot of like just ridiculous, insanely raunchy moments in this film. For me, where it maybe like faltered a little bit is I didn't feel like the story had much cohesion or much flow. It kind of was just like smash cutting from scene to scene to scene in a way that didn't
Yeah.
necessarily let certain moments build to kind of like what felt like a proper climax. But that's, you know, some pacing issues aside, like it still made me laugh out loud several times, and ultimately that's the main reason to go to a comedy. So, you know, if you're looking for something raunchy, I think it's totally worthwhile to watch. You know, if not in theaters, then definitely once it hits VOD.
For sure. And then one of the last ones that we have here is Insidious: The Red Door. It wrapped up what is supposed to be a long-running trilogy with stuff in the middle for the Insidious franchise that brings together the family from the first movie, who you saw kind of go into the further, this other dimension where the ghosts live in order to retrieve their son. And then in the second one, the dad gets stuck in there, so now the son's got to go in there to go get the dad. And since then, they had some spin offs, some kind of like sideways stories that they were telling with some of the other characters. And now your boy, Patrick Wilson, is doing his directorial debut,
Hmm.
coming back to act. And then on top of that, he's got the closing song in the movie. I don't know if you heard about that. He sings
I actually did not.
over the credits
Oh man,
with a
now
heavy
I
metal
have to go
band.
see it in theaters.
Now you have to go see it in theaters. On top of that, do you know who his wife is?
I definitely knew this. Remind
Succession.
me. Oh yeah, Dagmara, right?
Yeah,
Youngish.
I
Yeah.
did not know that, dude. Her Twitter's adorable. The way that she's been supporting him, go scroll through her stuff. It's been very interesting, especially even some backstory that she's had for the finale of Succession that I would recommend. But she's been supporting her husband, who's been making surprise appearances for people who want to go see the new Insidious movie.
Hmm.
And I like the Insidious franchise. I think it's decent. I like what one and two do with each other. I think it was really cool to bring them back over here 10 years later to be able to wrap up that story that I think it was needed. Is it the best horror movie? No, it's not the scariest one. It promises some scares from past ghouls being demons that they don't fully deliver. But I like the story, right? I like what they were presenting and bringing this family back. And
Yeah.
if you saw the first two, I think it's able to close out a lot of the themes that were going on with this family. It's definitely one of those franchises where it's a domestic family drama first, kind of packaged within a horror movie.
Right.
Um, and this one kind of lost it a little bit, but I think it still wraps it up well.
I had heard that the original version of this film was a lot starker, a lot more of that family drama that you feel it sounds like you kind of connected to, and that
Hmm.
eventually they went in and did a lot of reshoots to add scares because they didn't think it was quite enough of a horror. Do you feel that the scares are kind of, you know, shoehorned in there in that way?
I don't care for any of the scares in this
Yeah.
movie. Like none. Absolutely, there's nothing that happens in here other than the one that you see in the trailer already, which is the CAT scan one.
Hmm.
Everything else, it's irrelevant to me. It's more so this idea of like how can you have trauma kind of be a metaphor through a haunting that happened in your past, and do you choose to suppress things or do you choose to kind of wear those things on your sleeve?
Hmm.
I agree with Pink Sweets. You can tell he loves what he was doing. Love ain't gonna make a great movie, but I appreciated the effort that he put in there. So for me, it is definitely one that you should wait till you're at home. I'm working on a longer LME because I do think watching it after one and two, it works a lot better. Even though you can definitely tell it's not the same director behind the camera. But hey, we'll see where he takes it from there.
Yeah.
Maybe his music career. Never know.
Right. Maybe he can use the music for career to fund another one of these. Or actually, I don't think they need to. It made a whole lot of money at the box office. I'm
It
actually
did.
seeing now, though, Patrick Wilson turned 50 2 weeks ago. Should he have been on the actors 50 and over bracket?
Maybe for directors very soon. Perhaps, kind of, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have gotten far. I don't know who you would have put him with. I know
Right.
you kind of match him up sometimes. I
Tony
think it would have
Collette.
been with the youngins. Yeah, it wouldn't have done well for him. But
Yeah. I feel
he's
like
not bad.
I feel like he's a guy who like I kind of want him to be one of the biggest movie stars of
You
that
want him to
era.
win. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't know. It feels like he just sort of disappears a little bit and has fun just sort of enjoying his life as like a theater actor who occasionally dabbles in movies.
I like Patrick Wilson. I think he's pretty chill and good for him. Audiences seem to really liked it. I'm somewhere right in the middle between that and the Splat that was a critic score. But you were right. That came in at number 1, beating Indiana Jones. We don't talk too much box office, but did you hear the thing about Elemental before we break down all the stuff that's out right now?
Yeah, because we did
Blink
talk
and you miss it.
Exactly. We talked about how it was this huge disaster for Pixar and, what are they going to do? And, a few weeks in a row without any real PG competition except from Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, which like big woof.
Say your review. Say your review.
I mean, she's just the dumbest protagonist I've ever seen, even in a kid's movie. Like it doesn't make any sense.
That came out fuming.
It's like turning red for people who don't want to turn on their brain. I don't know. But it's definitely like, even though I didn't love Elemental, it's definitely a lot worse than Elemental.
Damn, bro, is this out already? Cause out of your review, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna go see. Oh, pre-order.
Yeah, I mean,
that gets out tomorrow. Oh,
dude,
dear.
It's Universal, so they do that 14-day thing sometimes, and
Has
it's
it even
already
been
not in the top
14
10. I
Oh
think
my
so.
word. Sheesh. Well,
Yeah.
I took Zach. I read Zach's Letterboxd review and I was like, okay, got it. Not going to it. So, well,
But yeah, what do you think about Elemental working its way back into being like a financial success through weeks in the top 5 because there's not really any other kids movie to knock it out?
I think that we review movies and you and I don't review box office.
Yeah.
Because reviewing box office sometimes is like making fun of Fran Drescher for being overseas with Kim Kardashian. And then not less than 24 hours later, calling her a hero because she did a strike. Things change in an instance, and I think we're in that era where, when it comes to so many of these movies, another one would be The Little Mermaid. I know there's a lot of debates that were happening when it came to that movie. It's top 5 worldwide. And it's crazy when you're looking at numbers. What is it, like 6, 7, 8, and 9? It's like you can't praise the latter half of the 10 and then not the other ones that are in the top 5. Obviously, there's a difference when you have like a Super Mario Bros. Movie, right? With what that cost and with the $1 billion that I think both you and I agree on these budgets being way too inflated. But we do pick and choose when a budget is too high or not. Fast X should not have that.
Right.
What's it called? Indiana Jones
should not have that.
Should not have that. But then you know who else has that? Mission Impossible is also $300 million. So where's the criticisms for that movie?
Exactly. Indiana Jones is being labeled as this gigantic failure, and people are not yet, at least, talking that way about Mission Impossible. Though, I mean, some of that plays into just like the favorites we picked. People are like, why did they even bother with this Indiana Jones movie that's only okay? But like, we all want to see Tom Cruise almost kill himself jumping off of cliffs on motorcycles.
Exactly. So that's my only thing. I like, sometimes I can't really. You have to take it with a grain of salt. But the Elemental money really coming in that latter half. And to me, the only thing that I would add to that point is that's what happens when you don't flip it on Disney Plus immediately. So shout out for that. I heard it is about to come out on digital, maybe towards the beginning of September. But letting it breathe, I think, is really good. Spider-Verse is about to come out on VOD in the first week, if I'm not mistaken, of August. So we have that to look forward to as well. But it's still in the top 5. Like, something like Top Gun did come out at the same time and was still doing money. Maybe Spider-Man still has that staying power. I don't see Indiana Jones maybe having those legs. I'm surprised that some of these comedies are still up there. Your girl hanging in there. She could not beat The Little Mermaid, but she's still there. But one of the biggest ones, I know you have some thoughts, and we won't go too deep into it because I haven't seen it yet, and you haven't seen it yet.
Yes.
But dude, look, all I'm gonna say is, how they're giving out those free tickets?
Yeah.
Bro, I requested one. They'll send you a Fandango code, and I think you can use the Fandango code for whatever you want. So if you want to see Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter, let the Lord pay for it.
That's a good tip. News you can use.
They might use it somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of controversy with this movie and how it's been, getting boosted at the box office.
Yeah.
what the story's about. Again, I haven't seen it. To me, all those stories to the side, it looks like a Christian Taken.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen this type of marketing in the past with them, like, paying for the movie tickets in order for people to go. I think you and I would both agree. I, uh, get that to fund actually saving the kids. Can you imagine if your kid
Right.
was missing and someone said, "I'm gonna help you by going to the movie theater"?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I think it's one of the thing that sort of is bothering me about Sound of Freedom, and like take, a lot of people are being like, oh, it's not political or whatever. Fine. Let's remove politics from it. I feel like it's this thing that people are using to champion an issue without actually thinking about the things that would help fix that issue, right? Like paying $12 to see Jim Caviezel for 2 hours does absolutely nothing to solve the problems that you're talking about. And then turning it into some kind of like conspiracy that AMC theaters are trying to stop people from seeing this film by putting it in over 2,000 different AMC theaters. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are revealing their priorities in talking about a movie like this, and they're also revealing their lack of ability to do a little bit of reading about Tim Ballard, the man that this whole thing is based on.
If I may,
Yeah.
wouldn't the same thing apply for when you watch something like Joyride and you're like, "Whoa, 4 Asian leads, Spider Verse,
Hmm.
and the topics that it covers, and many other movies"? Would it not be the
Sure.
exact same thing?
Sure. A lot of people choose to express their beliefs through like entertainment purchases and
Yeah,
stuff like that, and
both
that's
ways.
right. But I think there's sort of like a fake importance that is really really attached to something like this, and that the tenor of the conversation is a bit different than like the celebration of some of these other films,
Hmm.
and also just like that this is a person who has self-aggrandized and profited off of the same exploitation that he is like positioning himself as fighting.
Hmm. I like the Woman King though, and it turned out that all of that was fake. I like Flamin' Hot, and that was fake. So I guess I got to give Sound of Freedom a chance. I don't want to say I'm
Sure,
excited to go
sure.
see it, but I got a Fandango code that expires
Yeah.
in 5 days,
I
so I
think
will be
it's
going to go catch it.
I think it's also a different thing to uh adjust like ancient historical records or create a fake story about a nacho chip than it is about child trafficking. But that's a longer discussion.
The one thing I will say is we go to a lot of
Yeah.
film festivals, and we cover dozens of child trafficking, just human trafficking in general.
Hmm.
Bro, no one ever cares. I've had them
Yeah.
at the top of my list, right? Because I know the big thing right now is like if you don't like it, you're this, and if you do like it, you're this conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's like it has not become about the movie at that point. And it's like unless it becomes a trending topic, you need to have this energy year round, not just when it becomes every 4 years an issue. A lot of the movies that I'm mentioning that we cover at these film festivals, they happen to be kids who are taken overseas. A lot of like Prayers for the Stolen. There was one from Chicago that we covered not too long ago called Noise. There's a lot of these stories that also get into the heart without having to have a lot of that. I won't even use the word propaganda, but just that display of being very melodramatic, right? Making
Yeah.
these people who the story's about kind of be the front and center, like they're Batman.
Yeah.
My man went from being Jesus to being a vigilante. But in that, I do think that, like you said, railing behind a movie and not railing behind the actual
Cause.
movement, the
Yeah.
cause, I think is a split difference. And to me, the only irony comes in is movies are movies. Like them, don't like them. I think they could be profound. I will be giving an honest review when I catch it the next time we're together. But the same way that some people feel that things are too much about identity politics in one way, it could also be the same thing in the other way. And yeah,
Yeah.
ironically, it becomes an inverse of itself. Kind of like what I was saying with No Hard Feelings. Bro, these people really hated my No Hard Feelings review, ironically becoming the puritanical people who didn't want to see No Hard Feelings. Oh, it is ridiculous. But Ruby Gilman out in VOD tomorrow for everybody to catch. We should make an Intercut
I'm waiting
explain
your
for that.
review. I'm waiting for
I
your review.
I'm gonna have to jump on that. In the meantime, I've been too busy watching actually good animations. And
Yeah.
Nimona comes from a comic book artist. I believe it's a graphic novel. I have her like actual comic autobiography somewhere over here to the left of me. I remember reading this book whenever it had come out.
Okay.
And I thought it was super enjoyable. I thought the characters, the artwork, the story, all of it was great. I remember they turned this into a movie. They were in production with it, and then it got shut down. And then it got revamped because I guess their quota numbers kind of fell away for Netflix, and they brought it back after they complained about it, which should not have to be a process that needs to happen. But it is out now on Netflix. I thought it was a blast. I thought it was really fun. I love the animation, the style.
Hmm.
It does everything that I think cartoons can do that you can't do with regular live action, in making these over the top expressions, and hitting every emotion possible. And I also thought the voice acting was really great.
Yeah.
And I remembered how much I really enjoyed the story from when I read it as a book.
Definitely. I mean, it's so enjoyable and so beautifully animated. I really love the style of it and the colors of it, particularly. You just like Nimona being depicted in this particular shade of red that it ends up being like contrasted against most of the other tones in the film, really makes her pop in a
Mm-hmm.
way that's cool, kind of like, maybe not fully like Spider-Verse, but has some hints of that influence for sure. But there's just like a cool attitude to this movie too. Like it's a bit spunky, it's a bit harder edged. I was surprised to see that it's rated PG because it kind of feels like it skirts
It was
that edge
pushing
of
it.
being appropriate for children. Like it's definitely
Yes.
not for like a not for young children
Nah.
animated movie, but it's really, really delightful. Chloe Grace Moretz, I think in particular, is giving like a really excellent vocal performance as Nimona. But it's like those small details. It's one of those films, animated films particularly, where they've managed to fill lots of little moments with enjoyable things. I love like right before Nimona and Balthasar, is it? I'm forgetting his first. Ballister.
Riz?
Yeah, Riz's character. Right before the two of them are about to like run somewhere, Nimona like hums a little something, and that thing that she hums ends up being the score of the scene that they're about to go into. So
It's
like just
clean,
those,
bro.
yeah, those little moments like that really elevate something like this and gives you lots of little things to enjoy and appreciate about it.
Yep. I would highly recommend Nimona. Definitely catch it over on Netflix, because the other stuff that's on Netflix is just all right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Zach caught these next two, and he ain't really missing much. But Bird Box Barcelona is out.
Barcelona.
The spin-off to what I consider the biggest Netflix movie, Bird Box. Like, I remember when we covered that. Anybody who
Yeah.
covered that movie back in the day got
Can I ask
numbers
you a
with it.
question about that? Because
What's
like
up?
I agree with you. That was a
No, it's
huge movie
massive.
in the moment. I kind of feel like that movie has sort of disappeared from like the culture in a little bit. Like it was the biggest movie for months, and I
It was
never
massive.
see anybody discuss it anymore.
You know what? It's like Avatar, Zach. When people ask, where is that in
No
the
cultural
culture?
footprint.
But it's in the DNA somehow, just in the background. We never forget about it. I do feel that's what the first Bird Box was. And
Yeah.
I don't love that movie, but like it hit at the right time. It was right before a pandemic as well. And I think it's what they've kind of modeled everything afterwards,
Hmm.
especially here, because the spin-off now is that people are still covering their eyes so they can't see this monster that kind of makes you take yourself out, but they're expanding it so that it's in other places. I don't think the cast is as strong. It's not a bad cast, because you have Mario Casas, who has been in several Netflix movies. The one I would recommend the most is The Invisible Guest. I don't even know if it's on there anymore. Very good actor. On top of that, Georgina Campbell, who a lot of people loved in Barbarian. She's also in the the Black Mirror episode's on here. Hang the DJ. So she's been in the Netflix circle, dude. They got your boy from Babylon in here as well. So it is a stacked cast through and through. And somehow the crew that had Machine Gun Kelly, I think, was a better ensemble.
Hmm.
The story here is kind of goofy, because now it's sort of a group where you have somebody who worships these aliens, demons, monsters, angels, whatever they want to call them. And there's some decent turns that the story takes. But I don't think it justifies its making, I guess. The first one had a lot of elements thematically that I thought were done pretty well, specifically because you had a really great performance from your girl, Sandra Bullock, about
Hmm.
parenting and it kind of being a leap of faith. Here it's this idea of like, when do you go through so much trauma that ends up becoming something that blinds you? And, you know, I don't hate this take on the movie, on this expansion of it. It just kind of feels like one of many to come. You know, they're gonna do like a Hogwarts thing where they're gonna take it, you know, just all across the globe. And the only
Right.
thing, especially recently, that has me in the back of my mind going like, damn, so y'all ain't got to deal with the guilds. And
Yeah,
yeah,
watch for that new season of Squid Game. Gonna be a savior for Netflix.
honestly, right? Because now they're going to be able to avoid a bunch of that stuff.
Hmm.
That's how I see them taking it in the future. They do a mix of Spanish, English, and even some German in here. So they're just testing out their international markets. It's fine. I don't think you're missing too much if you don't see it. But it does come from a duo of directors who have made what I consider not that much better, but a little better pandemic movies, if you want to call it that, virus
Yeah.
movies, post-apocalyptic movies. I don't know if you remember Carriers. This one had Chris Pine, and it was them trying to survive.
I don't think I ever watched this one.
Oh, bro, it's an old classic. This would probably play in TNT if that was still around in
Yeah.
that capacity. But yeah, you know, they're good in creating that environment, but I did not really fall for the characters as much as I barely fell for them in the first one. So Bird Box Barcelona is out. There is a comedy called The Outlaws where Adam Devine plays a bank dude who's about to marry Nina Dobrev, which suspension of disbelief, I guess. And her parents have never introduced themselves until now, and they may or may not be these big international heist people, and he just so happens to run a bank. It's not a great movie. There was like two or three good jokes in there. A
Hmm.
couple of them came from Laurel because he plays a security. But other than that, I realize I think I've said it in the past. So I'm just gonna say it again before I move on to the next one. Yeah, this man wants to be yo, I'm blinking on his name. Peaches, School of Rock.
Oh, Jack Black.
He wants to be Jack Black so bad, so bad. And The Outlaws is out on Netflix if you're curious to see something that you could damn near watch and fast forward.
Lil Rel was
It's
your
not
favorite
great.
part about it?
Easily, he's got some really funny moments in there. So and you know Pierce Brosnan's always good looking, bro. They have a James Bond joke in here. Whack. Absolutely whack. Some
Ah,
last minute ones before we get into TV. There was a documentary that came out of Tribeca called Wham. Decent, all made up of archival footage going through the band and specifically not just how they came to be, but how they came to split and ended up catapulting George Michael. Pretty decent one if you want to catch that over on Netflix. I have never really sat with Tom Segura's stuff. This was my first one of his that I sat. Is it bad to say he's like the acceptable Louis C.K.? This guy who wants to come in, kind of test the audience a little bit, see how far he can ride it, and then come back. I feel like he's the standing Louis C.K. who's allowed to get Netflix deals.
all right, all right.
That's all up. But dude, I've noticed. I listened to this one and then I went back and I listened to the previous one that he had on Netflix. He begins
Mhm.
them just like Louis C.K. does. I'm a I have a child, and people always said that pets are like children. Nah, I would kill my pet for my child. Nope, nobody. Just testing the grounds here. Yeah, again, Louis would take that even further,
Right.
but he kind of gets there as well. I don't know if you've ever listened to a stand up, but he's
I
not that
haven't.
bad. Some
Cool.
decent stuff in there. So if you're curious in it, his new one was one of the first that I heard. Not too bad, not too shabby. Check that
All
out
right.
over on Netflix if you're interested in new comedy specials. But if you're interested in the most comedic one of them all, The Idol has wrapped. We've barely talked about it here.
Yeah.
Amanda and Zach talked about the first two episodes. I know Zach hasn't finished the last two, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
I've caught the first
Uh,
three.
no one finished the six because it never came out. But there is so much behind the scenes. I want to make an LME on it, breaking it down, all the cringe, all the satire. Out of what you've seen, Zach, how do you feel?
You know, it's funny because I do think there are elements of a good show like struggling to find their way to the surface. I think it's interesting to look at an overmanaged pop star and the like many voices that circle them and trying to pull her one way or another and the
Yeah.
like demanding nature of it. All those elements of it I found to be interesting. But then there's this like culty in alluring weekend predator weird sexual game going on, and it just does not sell any of that stuff at all. And I don't know if it's just how cringy the writing is, or like uh Abel's inability to really sell the like dark and mysterious, handsome, alluring guy thing. Because like he's not this enigmatic, complex, layered performer. It's all very surface level. And you know,
Is he supposed to be?
and like if you want to take it that way, as he has in interviews, like they're not playing into that thing either. He's either doing a poor job of being commanding and of being you know, that kind of brooding guy, or he's doing a poor job of communicating that he's not that guy and you're not supposed to think he's that guy. So I don't know if it is the performance or just the writing of it, but that whole half of the show to me just becomes like ridiculous and laughable, and just totally does not achieve what they're going after.
I don't think it's great. I
Yeah.
have a love-hate relationship with what's his name? Sam?
Levinson.
I was about to say Esmail for a second. He's still cleared. Levinson. I think he is a cringy white boy, nepo baby, who can make something as incredible as the first season of Euphoria.
Right.
Then he's made one of what I think is the cringiest, just one of the worst things out there in terms of movies with,
Malcolm and Marie.
Malcolm and Marie is just pure cringe. I still think Assassination Nation is worse than Malcolm and Marie. This feels like the edginess of what he thought he was doing with Assassination Nation. This feels like The Weeknd doing his version of Malcolm and Marie. But I find a lot of the criticisms to kind of have already made up its mind, even though I feel like there's a lot of problems with the story that people have, right?
Yeah.
But wouldn't it have been the same story that Amy was going to do? Like, it's still the same joke, still the same punchline, just with a different person telling it. So I feel like a lot of people are critiquing the premise that Amy was going to do as well, and now everybody cares about Amy, but none of y'all saw the girlfriend experience. That's all I have to say about it. I don't want to defend it because there is some cringe in this show.
Yeah.
But I think it's Sam Levinson's poor attempt of trying to be, what's his name? Paul Verhoeven.
Right.
I think a lot of this stuff. You know, it went viral, that one bit where The Weeknd says carte blanche.
Carte blanche.
Right? Carte blanche. I knew immediately, yeah, that's a joke. And
yeah.
I guess it's like, why were people treating it like a drama? There was someone who came in and went, you know, what if we treated this like a
it's
take
a silly
on a
show.
Toxic Mask? It's a silly show. And I guess like dislike the show, but the elements of it that were already going to be there for Amy's show as well were kind of, I don't know. I think he's supposed to be a joke. I think they're all supposed to be a joke. I think that Lily's performance is pretty decent. I think the music, I think the way it looks is fantastic. But I don't think, like, no hard feelings, I don't think they're supposed to be good people.
Right.
And that's my only thing. I think we can hate the show, but like, where do we, like we were saying about budgets, where do we draw the line on when a show is supposed to be over the edge or not? I saw a lot of critics who loved Red Rocket now have a problem with Susanna's son being a 17-year-old. I'm just trying to find the barrier there.
Well, there is something to be said about tone and you know, the way that a thing like is handled. And like, I'm willing to speculate that maybe the show could have been handled differently in terms of its perspective being a little bit more from the female perspective under Amy Simons. But I do agree with you in that, like, sometimes when things like this happen, and you know, I'm going to take it to one that I know that you care a lot about in Edgar Wright being removed from Ant-Man. I think people a lot of times like imagine this perfect version of a thing that does not exist and will not exist. It
would have been perfect, bro. It would have been fantastic. Don't you dare.
I like Edgar Wright too. And you know what? I like Amy Simons, but like, we don't know. We don't see what it was.
Thank you. That's it, right? We don't know what it was. Do I find it insane that she filmed 80% of it? Yes. Yeah. Yes, I do. I think that's ridiculous. I would love to release the Simons cut. I would love to freaking see that. But I also think that the cast that you have here is incredible. Besides The Weeknd, he sucks. Like, I think people don't know how to like find a middle ground. But Lily's decent. Jane Addams is really good in this. Rachel Sennett would not take a project without not knowing what the tone would be. Divine Joy Randolph, I've been seeing what she's got on the horizon. It's nothing but hits, bro, for her.
The pair of her and Hank Azaria do crack me up on the show.
We should murder him? Yeah, they needed more. So I think it is a cringe watch. To me, it's so trashy. Josh says Moses Sumney as well. I do got to give him a shout out because
Yeah.
that man had a silky voice. They did him so dirty as well.
Oof. Yeah.
You know, they're all treated like cattle in this show. But again, I think it is meant to be a trashy show from a guy who thinks that he's a provocateur
Right.
and is trolling. And I think they all got exactly what they wanted. There's that meme going around about him saying we're gonna have the hottest show of the summer. I mean, by default, Zach, name another. By default, it was
You're
the
not gonna
only
give it
one
to the
trending.
bear? You're not gonna give it to the bear?
The Bear wasn't trending every week like this was. People are still complaining about this show. The Bear is the best show of the summer for sure. But after that, there's only one that the people are going to vent about until the end of the year. Hell, the Bears not on the strikes. Man, they're still getting hits out of this. The lady with the this is what happens when you don't have good writers. You get the idol. That's funny. I have loved the content that has come out of it, and for that, the Idol season 2 coming to HBO. They have not canceled it yet. We will see where that goes. But Zach, watch the finale. Then we're
I
gonna have to
know.
come back
We
and
have
talk
to.
about it.
We gotta talk about it more at the end of the month.
For sure. Once you watch the finale, yes, we'll have a lot to vent about.
Oh man. Okay. Okay.
Again, I just think he's trolling. I endorse it as a trashy show. One that I don't think is trashy, but is just fully goofy, is one that I know the Intercuties have loved and is finally wrapped. And one of the very shows, you know, this is a big compliment for me.
Yeah.
That the moment I got that notification from Apple, I was putting it on. I was putting it on TV. Platonic brings together Rose Byrne, Seth Rogen, almost forgot their names, after they did a fantastic job in Neighbors, in my opinion,
Yeah.
playing a couple. And now here they're two people who were friends for a long time, but their differences caused them to drift. And now, after a divorce and such, they have come back together, realizing that they're kind of stinted adults. They haven't really grown up. They feel kind of stuck. And they're not really the best people to help each other out of that rut. But each episode to me has been very hilarious. They find new ways to just, you know, goof on each other. And they're just charismatic people, dude. Even when they're so unlikable, they're just funny to watch together. I know you've
Yeah.
seen a couple of episodes. I think you enjoyed it as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think this is what we lost when theatrical comedies stopped really being a thing, is just people who have
Good point.
this natural charisma, this natural chemistry opposite each other, as you pointed out in their work in Neighbors. Like, they are just fun to watch in different situations, even if it's not like, you know, the most novel concept or the most, you know, profound drama. I just like want to see them interact and be silly and get put into silly circumstances opposite
sir.
each other. And you know, this show is just a really great opportunity for them to do those kinds of things and to get it up to misadventures and, you know, figure out ways to overcome it in the end. And I thought it was sweet. I thought it was really fun. It's, you know, just a great showcase for how talented both of them are. Rose Byrne in particular just gets to show off how like silly and slapsticky
Yes.
she can be.
She mopped him.
Yeah,
She
I don't
mopped
know.
him.
I don't know if we talked about this in our best TV episode or just in the discussion we had afterward, but the special skills moment is just my favorite, like 2 minutes of TV, maybe
It's
all
so
year.
dumb. Yes.
It's so fun. And yeah, just beyond them too, the great cast all the way down. Luke McFarlane and Guy Branum, who are both in Bros.
The
Even
guy, I had mentioned that, and the dude who directed Bros has a big thing to do with the show.
yeah, Nick Stoller.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, didn't he direct
fantastic.
Neighbors also?
Damn, did he? Let me check that out. But yeah, no, keep going.
But all the guys that are at the bar with him as well are all really fun. You pointed out one of them
Yes.
has a role on The Bear too. But yeah, it's just a really good
you're right.
hang. And yeah, there's a reason we both had it in our honorable mentions for best TV of the year so far. And Amanda, I think, had it on her list too.
Hey, it's one of the very few that I can see. He did Friends from College, bro. I love that show.
Yeah, Nick Stoller
Oh.
is really good, and we should
he's
give
that
him
guy
money
then.
to make more theatrical romantic comedies because he's kind of got
Bro,
that tone down.
he did your movie.
Yeah, it's my boy. I love Nick.
Oh,
Nick
that's your
Stoller.
boy then.
Yeah.
Okay, all right then. Damn. Well, we highly recommend it. Platonic over on Apple TV. It has wrapped. I still see the hyphen. I mean, they end it like perfectly, and I don't think it should continue. But damn, I wouldn't complain. You know,
I wouldn't complain
to see more
either.
of them hanging out.
I always used to spell plutonic. I think this show is like the thing that's gonna help me remember that it's platonic, not plutonic. It's not related to the god Pluto or plutonium. It's two friends.
Well, we don't believe in platonic relationships. Zach and I, We've been together for too long. I don't want him with anybody else.
Yeah.
But I do want him watching the new Steven Soderbergh series, TV
Yeah.
miniseries called Full Circle. I thought it was going to be all 6 episodes, but they are releasing it weekly, and they dropped the first 2 that has all of these interweaving stories of kind of a murder that happened and rituals in order to be able to take revenge. Have you caught
Mhm.
any of this, Zach?
I haven't, but I'm absolutely going to because it's a new Steven Soderbergh project, and that
Yeah.
always piques my attention. But I do want to call attention to that it's not just Steven Soderbergh. This comes written by his frequent collaborator, Ed Solomon, who, aside from writing No Sudden Move, which I think is like a highly underrated film,
Very good.
remember that heist film Soderbergh did a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
Um,
with the scroll.
yeah, exactly. But Ed Solomon's the guy who wrote Men in Black, and he
Yes,
wrote
sir.
Now
Look
You
at that.
See Me, and he's done a lot of really excellent stuff. So comes not just from a great writer, but a great
Super Mario
director
Bros.
and the original Super
And
Mario
Bill and
Bros.
Ted. Damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Alrighty.
So Ed Solomon,
Look,
legend.
shout out to him, but I will say this: it is a little goofy sometimes.
Okay.
But it's not cross territory where you're like, why would they write a character like that? You know, it's not blaming the mistake on the writer. It's like, why are these characters so dumb? And so far, I'm giving it the leeway because characters are allowed to be dumb. It's when they start, just being more inconvenience of the plot. Or the story that it kind of gets in the way. But right now, boy, they have been frustrating me. You'll have characters that are, maybe responsible for a kidnapping that's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and just everything that they do seems counterintuitive for what it should be. Zazie Beetz plays like a detective in this. And she's like, I don't know, maybe like kind of asking her superior if like she can maybe get. What are we doing here, bro? There's just some there's just some in and outs of this show that I don't fully understand. But look, I watched the first 2 episodes back to back. I'm gonna see it through. Um, I'm just a little iffy on some of the characterizations here, but other than that, it's shot the way Soderbergh, gets right in there, especially because a lot of this takes place in New York, and there's like a whole tense sequence that happens in Washington Square Park. So have this on your radar, Zach.
No.
I'm hoping that it wraps up very nicely. But
I heard they got my man Jim Gaffigan eating a hot pocket in this show.
stop. I think it's a burrito. But the first thing I yelled out is, I swear, if we keep having these comedians just bring their sketches onto the big screen, I can't handle it anymore. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a burrito. But to you and me, yeah, well, I'm going to call it a Hot Pocket. It's a Hot Pocket. Another HBO one, or Max one, My Adventures
One
with
to
Superman.
watch.
It is pretty decent in terms of like a brand new retelling of your basic Superman story. Him coming into terms with who he is, him meeting a really cute Lois Lane, a very funny, what's his name? Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen, yeah.
And them just trying to make it as, interns in the Daily Planet while he's also kind of learning about his past. It's your standard story. I don't know what it has to do with Adult Swim because that's who's also like kind of co-credited with it, but
Yeah.
really good voice acting from everyone involved. And I think the animation is nice and clean. Hasn't blown me away yet, but like if I had a kid, this is like, wow, this is exactly how I would want their introduction to Superman to be,
If I haven't caught any of this yet, but I saw some Superman cartoons when I was younger. Are there any like discernible differences from like the cartoons we grew up with, or does this really feel like in spirit with those?
I think it's in spirit. Like, I mean, unless you're saying that, they did kind of change the characters around him a little bit, to me, that's irrelevant. It's the exact same thing. I was, because I saw the Adult Swim thing. I thought they were going to pull an Invincible, like started all nice, and then all of a sudden things were going to get crazy. It hasn't gotten there yet. It's still very family friendly, and I think it's that spirit of it that people have been missing from Superman, and this got it. This gets it and some. So I'm very excited. I think Quaid, he's been doing a fantastic job as the voice, and the way that they've been flashing back to him being as a kid, and now older. I'm looking forward to see how they continue it. So
Very
that
cool.
is My Adventures with Superman. But before we get to our picks of the week, Zach, give a big shout out to all the Inner Cutie patrons who support us over on Patreon.com.
Let's do it. Let's thank the Inner Cutie patrons, the wonderful people who support this show. Our Academy level members are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Janicia, Tyler,
Shout
and
out.
Benji. And of course, the big thanks goes to those producer level patrons who are
Hey.
Yuden Veer, Sam, and Wiley. Thanks again for all your support, and a reminder that you too can become a member at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for patron benefits like getting early access to some Intercut episodes, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord where you can chat with us throughout the week, or access to the monthly patron Google meeting where you can chat with us online. We're doing our next one tonight, so not too late to join for as little as $1 a month and come hang and come chat movies, TV, culture, whatever, with your Intercut
Religion,
boys. Yeah, Sound of Freedom.
sex
Anyway,
trafficking, and how we're gonna end it here on Intercut.
so yeah, $1 a month to join the Tim Ballard fan club over on
Chill, bro.
patreon.com.
Bro, I want to talk so much more about that movie because the conspiracies have been crazy. I actually think that's the funniest part.
Yeah.
But let's talk about our picks for the week. Starting
Let's
off
do
with
it.
just some housekeeping because we have the biggest movies right as a strike happened, and none of
Oh
them are going to
man.
be in more premieres. How does this happen, dude? We're going to have to make an entire thing for the Emmys as well
Hmm.
as the strikes because I think it's going to go hand in hand because that's one of the biggest things being affected. But right off the bat, there are going to be Barbie blowout screenings. I don't understand why they call it blow. They're having one right now. Like I said, I'm here recording this, but I left a sea of pink as they were gathering for the Dolby. I've got my tickets for this early one though. They are probably all sold out. We did mention this before we went on our break on our last stream that you can catch it one day early in Dolby since they're all duking it out for the big formatted theaters. And then obviously it comes out Thursday as it battles with Barbenheimer, which is my personal pick for the week. But you got some Barbs? Barb
Did
thoughts?
you? Well, I'm just wondering if you're booking a Barbenheimer double screening or if you're going to separate them into two different nights.
I got something better. I'm gonna have to make a Barbenheimer LME release. That's what I've decided. I'm gonna have to do the two separate ones. Right now,
Nice.
this is how my schedule's going. Tomorrow we have Oppenheimer. I keep saying Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer.
Oppie.
Oppenheimer. Oppie. Yes. Like the ops. Yeah. Oppenheimer tomorrow. I was gonna travel all the way to Indianapolis to go watch it because they had a press screening. But instead, I'm going to watch a 70 millimeter at home. Not at home, but in Chicago. From there, I am then going to go to the Indianapolis Theater at Indiana State Museum in Indianapolis, Indiana. Catch one there. Then I'm going up to Michigan for their brand new Celebration Cinema Grand Rapids North IMAX screening, both which are going to be in 70 millimeter. We're going to put this up. I don't even know if I can edit it right now. I'm going to have to edit it afterwards. We're going to post this link right here because a lot of people have made it very confusing. And I'm not going to lie. I'm a nerd. We're nerds. We get it. But it's very difficult to understand the difference between 70 millimeter IMAX, regular
Hmm.
IMAX, 70 millimeter, 35 I just want to see the
Laser.
movie.
Yeah.
There's too much going on, but I'm going to post this and I'm going to put it simply as this. Watch the movie wherever you can.
Yeah.
If there is ever a difference, it's this link that I'm going to post. Only 30 theaters in the country. I'm making the trek to go see it. Zach just needs to go back home. But if you have one near you, I implore you in the next 3 weeks while it's playing. A lot of people talk about like the size of the screen and they say they don't care. No. If y'all posted an Instagram image, a Twitter image, and it's been cropped, you do care. You do care, okay?
Hmm.
But on top of that, everyone's watching this in 4K. And if you watch this in 70 millimeter, that is 18. 18K. You cannot tell me that's not a difference up on the screen. So do yourself a favor. Go check it out. I'm watching that 3 times. I'm going to try to watch Barbie twice. And then I'm hoping to do a release of a Barbenheimer featurette there. But you got yours for the same day?
I got my first screening of them both for the same day, and then, like you said, I'm going to come back and see that beautiful 70 millimeter IMAX projection of Oppenheimer. Because, like, if there is a filmmaker out right now who you kind of want to give like the best theatrical experience possible, I mean, it's probably got to be Christopher Nolan or James Cameron. And if I'm choosing between the two, I kind of want to go with the practical effects of Christopher Nolan. If I'm being
Easily.
real honest.
This man
I
said
still
he shot
gotta.
dialogue scenes. IMAX, like, look at it. Like,
Yeah.
someone had asked me, they were like, "What? But it's not even action. Aren't they just
Right?
talking?" I'm like, "Yeah, talking in 1:43 IMAX.
Talking in 18K.
I'm gonna take it." Yeah.
Yeah.
What were
I
you
still
telling
got 15 hours left in my Oppenheimer audiobook, so
me?
I gotta get through
Get
this by
to it.
Thursday.
I saw one YouTube video that was like, "Yo, this movie's gonna be crazy." No, this movie's gonna be really good.
Oh
I
yeah.
want to make a breakdown on the IMAX. We're gonna have a whole spoiler talk for the movie, for the IMAX, for Barbie, all of that coming up after the weekend. But it's hey, this to me is the biggest weekend in movies. And to think that you're still sitting on an Indiana Jones movie and a Mission Impossible movie, which I would want to see again in 40X. And it's not even my favorite Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to watch Oppenheimer 3 times 3 hours. I got to watch 9 hours of Oppenheimer first before I fit it back in. But in between,
Yeah.
I also have American Gladiators that is out
Ooh,
on
okay.
Hulu. I want to say you can get it without the ESPN subscription, but this actually comes from the boy, Benjamin Berman. If you
Yeah.
remember, this is the guy who made one
The
of my favorite
amazing
documentaries.
Jonathan.
I love that documentary, and he takes that same approach here. I will say this: he is annoying. He like I heard it for the Amazing Jonathan documentary, but boy does he force himself into the narrative so many times. But then, damn it, does he come out with something special on the other end because of how obnoxious he gets with it. This is such a good doc that Netflix made a Boonk doc. This is the official documentary. And then Netflix immediately flipped that one that was on the top 10 for like a couple of days, the
Yeah.
unauthorized one. Do not watch that. Watch it if you just, I guess, want some extra coverage. This is the reason why Netflix made a copycat documentary.
Right.
This one's really good, and it ends on a banger. So catch this if you can. It's in 2 parts over on Hulu as a part of their 30 for 30s, which I've always been a really big fan of. The American Gladiators documentary. On top of that, Afire is the newest one from Christian Petzold, who I absolutely adore. I think he makes really good movies. This is a story of a group of people who meet up kind of like at an Airbnb, a loft. It's not even a rental because one of them owns it. Their parents own it, and there's a fire that's kind of approaching. But because of the wind, it's kind of over there for right now, and they're kind of dealing with a lot of internal drama as the main character is trying to write a novel. Really good. Had a Tribeca premiere, if I'm not mistaken. Also had a couple of other festivals. It's getting a limited release right now. I would recommend it if you wanted something new.
Would
And
you how would you compare it to like Phoenix or Undine? Do they have like a similar kind of like I don't know, like underneath the surface fire burning, if that makes any sense?
yeah, so nothing's ever gonna touch Phoenix,
Yeah.
ever.
I mean that
This
ending
is
alone.
yeah. To me, this is like superior. This one's way better than Undine in my opinion, and I don't think Undine is a bad movie. I need to watch that one again to connect with it even more. But this one made me want to watch it. I don't want to say immediately afterwards, but to just see the characters and how they perceive certain things because they're all holding a lot of emotions within themselves. It's a soft movie, but I like the ending. He almost hits you with like this crazy banger of an ending that you think, hey, is he gonna Phoenix this in here? And he doesn't really, but maybe he did. I don't know. Gotta catch the movie. It's been one of my favorites as of late. I will say that. So catch a fire if you have it playing near you. I think it's a definitely good independent movie.
Nice.
And then wrapping it up with 2 series, The Horror of the Lotus Roach, which is over on Amazon Prime. This feels like a sitcom that is rated R. This comes from a podcast that was on Spotify about this woman who served jail time, comes out, and then starts working as a masseuse who accidentally kills people. And because she's working underneath an empanada shop, well, they come up with new flavors, Zach. I will leave it at that. It is not perfect, but there are some elements to it that the parts where it feels too sitcom-y because Justina, she's in One Day at a Time. She's got this very like, she's a good actress, but sometimes it's this very like sitcom delivery.
Right.
And because of how messed up, and that's what I'll give it, they do some messed up things. I was not expecting it. It makes it feel even worse. It makes it feel wrong. So it's a total of 8 episodes. There are some surprise appearances, cameos towards the end of the series, and we just wrapped it. And I would recommend it if you want something demented to watch. The Horror of the Lotus Roach over on Amazon Prime. And then something funnier. which would be Survival of the Thickest, which is produced, I think, written, starring, everything by Michelle Buteau. She's been like a really funny side character in a lot of things. I really liked her in I can't even find it in here. A movie she did for Netflix. It was literally just like a cameo that she had with Gina Rodriguez.
Oh,
Someone great.
yeah.
She's been an Isn't It Romantic, Russian Doll. She's a standout to me every time I see her in a show or a series. And here she's running it. She is like she's that's so Raven damn near. She's a fashionista who's helping several people, and like each episode has her kind of with another client while her like friends are also kind of going through their own stuff. It has made us crack out loud a lot of times, and I would put it on your radar if you want another funny show. We finished Platonic, went directly straight into this. Platonic's still just a little funnier, but this is a little raunchier. And hey, 2023, thank you for bringing back the raunch. So put this one on your radar if you wanted something
Nice.
funny over on Netflix. But Zach, tell me what you got.
Well, you talked about a new Soderbergh series earlier, but it's not the only new Soderbergh series. Steven surprise dropped a show called Command Z on his website extension765.com. And I'm really curious to check it out. It's about a scientist
What?
who undertakes a mission to travel back in time to revise history and save the world. And it stars Michael Cera, who, I mean, I just really enjoy Michael Cera. Speaking of Barbie and stuff, I feel like he hasn't been the center of a project in a little while. He's very picky and choosy about what he'll attach himself to, but the idea of him at the center of a Soderbergh series sounds really appealing to me. It's also got Roy Wood Jr., who I think is very funny in some film appearances. But one of the other things that I'm really intrigued by is that Stavros Halkias is in this. I don't know if you've seen any of his like tweets or stand-up, but he's just one of these guys that like, you know, when you see somebody cast in a project and you're like, I didn't even know casting directors were aware this person existed. I'm just curious
Okay.
to see how Soderbergh wants to implement him here.
Okay, I saw this guy be talked about with the still of him in a Soderbergh project, and
Yeah.
I literally went, he wasn't in Full Circle.
Yeah, it's because there's a whole other Soderbergh project out there.
Whoa, okay. You're gonna have to send me some of his tweets. I don't know this guy like that, but interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm definitely curious about Command Z, whatever's going on there. But sticking with TV, let's talk about Minx, which was canceled on Max tragically and then triumphantly resurrected by Stars. We all love Stars. We've never said anything bad about Stars.
Never love it.
And it's going to be the home of Minx season 2 starting on Thursday, I believe it is.
Isn't that
So
crazy?
the Jake Johnson led show about a women's magazine or what?
Erotic magazine, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. An erotic magazine designed for women, and also just sort of like feminism in the 1970s, the clashing of those elements. I think it's a really fun show. Ophelia Lovibond, who plays Joyce, the lead on the show, is really great on it. I just really enjoy the way the show handles discussions of idealism versus the realities of capitalism and how those things kind of come to a head in different situations. It's funny, it's breezy, it's well acted. I'm hoping that it can stick around for a little bit on Stars.
It reminds me a lot of Glow. Obviously, they're different,
Yeah,
but kind of had that same energy. And yeah, hopefully it
it's a
continues.
good
I'm glad they found
comparison.
another home.
Definitely. Have you seen anything about Quarterback
No,
over on
bro, tell me,
Netflix?
dude. No, it was number one, and I knew about it because it's like covering them. But is it good?
Yeah. Well, I haven't really
You never
seen
know with these sometimes.
I haven't seen stuff other than the Patrick Mahomes stuff, but the Patrick Mahomes stuff is really, really cool. This is a show that is sort of bringing you on, like, sort of into the huddle, if you were willing to accept that idiom, and behind the scenes of like what it's like being an NFL quarterback and from the moment to moments of it. And I just think it's got this really incredible access. You have in one episode Patrick Mahomes walking you through his thoughts as he rolls his ankle in the middle of a playoff game and them struggling to figure out like how to accommodate for that. And I don't know, I just love these shows that have really popped up. I feel like in the wake of stuff like All or Nothing or Sunderland Till I Die or F1 Drive to Survive that are giving you a cinematic an intense look behind the scenes of these professional sports. So I'm excited to dive deeper into the show. I don't know if you've seen any clips from it at all, or just heard about it.
Nothing. I had it on my radar for what was coming
Yeah,
out for the week, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's like the Dallas what the Dallas Cowboys did, but it for
right.
HBO, but it seemed like they were specifically focusing on people. So I'm
Yeah,
very
I mean,
curious.
I put the trailer on, and Caitlin, who does not care about football, was even absorbed by it because it's just got this like edge of your seat quality to it. So yeah, I would
It looks like it's
definitely
getting
check
good
it out.
reviews. All right,
Absolutely.
definitely, we'll bump that up.
Uh, quick mention for Asteroid City because we've been
Yeah,
mentioning it a
sure.
lot on the show, but man, 2 weeks and done. It is already out on
Huh?
VOD.
People were saying it wasn't gonna come out, and I'm like, bro,
It's right there.
it's not universal, but yeah, that's what happens nowadays. You know this man. Let me see if I can find him.
Oh,
Uh,
the one you quote tweeted, Sident?
no, not that. Yeah, that was
Okay,
I was
okay.
just disappointed because I think he makes really great content, and I'm like,
Yeah,
come
yeah, yeah.
on, bro, I don't like that. Yeah, that's separate. Uh, but no, acting wise, not pianist. Glass Onion, Bad Guy, Fight Club.
Edward Norton. Oh
Edward
yeah,
Norton
that he
came out.
said
It's
said he got paid $4,200 to act in this movie.
yeah. When you wonder why you'll never be able to make a Wes Anderson movie, maybe that's one of the many reasons.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely couldn't convince Edward Norton to do anything for
Wow.
$4,000.
Yeah, that man said he was losing money when it came to it, but yeah. Well, we still got to talk about this one. I'm going up to bat. I'm gonna rewatch Asteroid City now that it's out, and I'm gonna
There we go.
rewatch what's the one that y'all hate, Despise,
French Dispatch.
and I'm gonna fight for French Dispatch, and
It's good.
I'm gonna give my I don't know, my judgment for
Dissertation.
it. Yeah, something like that. Jeffrey Wright's really good in that movie. He's also
Jeffrey
good in
really,
this one.
yeah, he's
Jeffrey
really
Wright.
good in both of them. He
Jeffrey
should
Wright's
be in
really
more
good
Wes
in both.
Anderson movies.
He should be.
All right, and we'll give one last shout out to
You're
Theater
lying.
Camp. What? What am I doing?
Day and date? I thought there was a week.
Maybe it is a week in advance
Oh,
that it's going to be in theaters. I could be. Let's check right now. I'm going to Hulu.com because very soon Theater Camp is
are
going
we
to
gonna
be.
play it?
Everybody get some popcorn. Yeah, no, Theater Camp. It is coming out very soon to Hulu, and I think it very excitingly was in theaters and had the best per theater gross for a Focus Features film since
Yes.
Jojo Rabbit. So there's definitely a hunger
Wow, your favorite.
for this movie. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain type of audience who either has been to these types of theater camps or like is intimately aware with the type of person who would go to these type of theater camps, arts camps. And to those people, this movie is going to be hysterical because you'll recognize so many character traits, so many like little nuances and like types of personalities and types of drama that mattered so much when you were a young creative hoping to build a life in the arts and just seems so silly in this context. It's got my favorite performance ever from Ben Platt.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, where's he better than this? Molly Gordon, hysterical in this. Jimmy Tatro, very, very funny in this. But
Always solid.
it's Noah Galvin who actually steals the
Okay.
show here.
Yeah. Robbed it. Robbed all of them in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter.
I mean, you were a big fan of Theater Camp as well. We talked about this
Yep.
way back when we were at Sundance.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. Like Zach said, if you knew these people and you despise them, maybe stay away from the movie. But I also think that it finds itself, it's introspective enough for you to be able to laugh alongside with them. So even if every joke doesn't hit for you because you're not that close to it, I think there's still a good enough ratio in there, and the characters are really funny, and it has this energy to it because one of the things they described at Sundance was that it is an improv, like the whole thing is improv. The
Yeah.
editing was the biggest pain because it was just them going in every direction, and the magic they were able to do to bring it in, I think, is why it makes a lot of the moments really funny because they're all sporadic.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that like this is a film that was like assembled because the story really is piecemeal. The title cards are doing a lot of the bridging scenes,
Yeah,
but ultimately that's not the stuff that you care about in these types of Christopher Guest inspired comedies. You'd want like very funny people to embody very funny characters and give funny line deliveries. And movie is full of stuff like that. So
what was that
uh,
thing where you used to fill in the adjective? and the
Mad
verb.
Libs.
Mad Libs. This is theater camp Mad Libs.
Mad Libs. I like
and
that.
it's pretty funny.
So yeah, those are our picks for the week.
Going through them again. I guess you still get a couple of days to catch Zach's final pick in theaters before it comes out on Hulu, and it's actually Searchlight.
Yeah. Oh, it was the highest per screen average for a Searchlight film. But yeah, check out Theater Camp in theaters if you can. If not, it's going to be on Hulu very soon. Also, check out Asteroid City now that's available on VOD. My favorite Wes Anderson film in probably a decade, and one that has just all the things you love about Wes Anderson, plus maybe a little bit more. A quick shout out to Quarterback, which is a great look behind the scenes of NFL quarterbacks over on Netflix. The return of Minx for season 2, now over on Stars, a really fun and interesting show about a women's magazine in the 70s. And then The Boy, Soderbergh,
with
back.
A
twofer, Command Z, over on Extension 765.
You know, I saw this picture of him and then did no other research. I thought this was coming out in the fall. Like I looked at his face.
Beyonce dropped it.
Gotcha. Sheesh. It's not. Is it the whole thing?
I think so. Let me go. I'm gonna go to the website now and tell you.
Episode guide, TV mini. As Zach pulls that up and we watch along with y'all. I also had a couple of shows with Survival of the Thickest over on Netflix if you want something really raunchy, or if you want something violent and raunchy, The Horror of Dolores, Roach over on Prime, based off the podcast, coming from Blumhouse. They also got Megan over there, in case you were curious to do a Blumhouse double feature. If you have an independent theater near you, go catch Fire, or stay at home and watch Phoenix, because anytime that I can recommend Phoenix, I would highly recommend watching Phoenix. And then over on Hulu, don't watch the fake documentary on Netflix. Go to the real one, the 30 for 30, the American Gladiators documentary. It goes deep into seeking out these people who created this legacy that to this day is still being mimicked. But of course, it's all about Barbie. It's all about Oppenheimer. It's all about
Barbenheimer.
Barbie. It's all about Oppenheimer. I am excited for both. I'm just excited for both. I think we win. We win.
Exactly.
That's all that matters.
Whichever one wins at the box office, we win for getting to see them both.
Who do you got, though?
Well, just in terms of box office?
I've saved a couple of bookmarks of people going, y'all are delusional if you think Barbie's going to make more than Mission Impossible. After the blowout, screenings alone, it sounds like it's beating the 5 days of Mission Impossible. Mm-hmm. Again, we've been talking a lot in this podcast that a lot of people live in a different reality.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's Barbie's to lose, but at the same time, we know Nolan's got that vice grip on theaters. He's got all those IMAXs, all those Dolbys.
He does. Personally, I'm going Sound of Freedom. I think Sound of Freedom is going to come out of top
up again
box office.
3 to 2 to 1.
Other than that, let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section on what you're curious for. That is all for this week's show. But Zach, let them know where they can find your thoughts as soon as you come out. He's going to leave with the 70mm reel. I heard they're giving some out. I hope you got one in Virginia.
Yeah, I'll be asking my theater for sure. You can find more from me at Zshevich on Twitter or Letterboxd or Instagram. You can also check out more from me on my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Where can people find more from you, Art?
You can find me at LME Movies on all social medias. I just started Threads. I'm thinking of deleting Threads. I cannot delete Threads, though. So other than that, you can find us at Intercut.
I just got a Blue Sky invite code. I'm swimming in social media now.
Is that even worth it?
I don't know. Probably not.
You know, the best one is here on YouTube.com.
Yeah.
A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever you like to listen to. But here on YouTube.com is where we have the live chat. Is where we're streaming it first. And it's where we've been since, Zach and I met each other back when Christopher Nolan was not releasing everything in IMAX. And now this new one is going to be completely like that. You can catch every episode of the Intercut podcast and the Weekend Must Watch here every Monday as we get back into it, especially with August. A big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all the patrons, and all the iTunes listeners. We appreciate everyone who's left us some 5-star reviews, because the more that we get, we have that goal.
255-star reviews?
255. I'm building it up now.
Okay.
255.5.
Yeah. So what are we going to do? Dress up as Barbie and Oppenheimer or something? Or
I'll be the film reel. You can be Ken.
Sounds good.
Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow the socials over at Intercut Pod, and until next time, let us know which one you're watching first, Barbie or Oppenheimer.
I'm going to Cobweb.
Sound of Freedom.